Alright folks, so I'm here today to explore one of the coolest yet most underutilized aspects of the Walking Dead universe, variants. Now, a variant is basically anything that doesn't look or move like this. Basically, anything that moves or acts different than your typical walker. This can include naturally occurring variations like waterlogged walkers or man-made variations like radiated walkers. Just a quick disclaimer, some of the names I may give these variants may not be official. Some of the names I've gotten from the Walking Dead wiki, while others are some I've given for unexplored variants. But without further ado, let's get started. Roamers appear in Season 1 and 2 of the main series, and for all intents and purposes, were retconned into being variants. Although a regular walker could be called a roamer, the name I'm using for these variants comes from the Walking Dead wiki. Otherwise, they would be unnamed. You see, the first season of the show had a different showrunner in Frank Darabont, who had ideas to take the zombies in a far different direction, displaying signs of intelligence and personality. To me, this would make no sense given Dr. Jenner's breakdown of the virus and how it kills the personality within the brain in Season 1, but was the direction he wanted to go nonetheless. That is, until Darabont was fired at the end of Season 2. It's unclear if Season 3 showrunner Glenn Mazzara was responsible for the template of zombies going forward, but as of the third season, walkers displayed far inferior motor skills, and the signs of intelligence from previous seasons were gone, leaving us with the dumb husk walker we know today, retroactively making the roamers variants. With that history lesson out of the way, how do these walkers differ from the regular bone husk? Well, roamers are seen to display a higher level of intelligence and strength than your regular walker. We see them hold rocks and tools, and in some cases even use them as weapons. They have highly increased motor functions as they are able to chase at a jogging speed and climb obstacles in their way, such as fences. But the most interesting aspect of these variants is their perceived increased intelligence. They appear to possess echoes of their old personalities somewhere deep inside them. The best examples of this are Morgan's wife from the very first episode, who not only returns to her place of death, but also turns the door handle, as if remembering her family is waiting for her inside. Evident from the webisode Torn Apart, the Bicycle Girl Walker appears to also be classified as a roamer, as she eternally crawls to the park she sent her kids to before her death. The most famous example being the little girl walker from the pilot's first scene, who not only roams her place of death, but also picks up a teddy bear, seemingly recalling it being her possession before turning. I don't know if I would want them to go any further than they did with this concept, but it's interesting as it adds an extra layer of morality to every walker you kill. Is there still someone somewhere deep inside? And if so, do they fear you putting them down, or wish for it? It's a really messed up thought experiment that sadly gets lost over the seasons due to the change in direction with the walkers. And sadly, we would not receive an in-universe explanation to what caused these variants. Some speculate the walkers were fresher and therefore had more muscle mass and capability to remember, but until AMC directly gives us an origin, it's all just speculation. Although this general concept wouldn't be abandoned indefinitely. After 9 seasons of regular generic husk walkers, Season 11 introduced us to the Climber variant. Now, to explain these guys, I'm going to have to break the fourth wall once again. I want to be clear on this next part. What I'm about to say is more of a theory on what happened, as I can't find any direct information on the change of heart to bring back smart walkers this late into the game. But I speculate someone at the creative team, most likely Scott Gimple, was extremely bothered by the discrepancy in behaviors. Around this time, there was a lot of online discussion about this exact topic, so I imagine with only a few episodes left, Gimple or one of the writers probably decided to bite the bullet and requested Kang revisit these traits in walkers to avoid a dangling plot thread. Their reintroduction is written pretty weak, as they don't overly serve that big of a purpose in the final episodes besides opening the gates of the Commonwealth, but it's kind of a genius way to stir up interest in the universe going into the spin-offs. That being said, how do these climbers differ from the roamer variant? They share the traits of enhanced speed, strength, and ability to hold and use objects, but from what we've gathered, do not possess echoes of their old personalities, rather an increased level of intelligence for problem solving, making them far more dangerous than the roamers who simply seem to repeat acts they did before death, as opposed to actually hunting with their brains, or whatever you would call the mushy mess inside a walker's head.
What the fuck?
In terms of an in-universe explanation, we again do not receive one. I would speculate something at the time of death caused this mutation, maybe a very specific set of circumstances, but my theory is they were brought in to tie a bow onto the Season 1 Walker discrepancy, but didn't get all the traits right. Lurkers are a surprisingly rare variant of Walker given the simplicity of their concept. It's unknown if this variant is caused from a mutation in the virus or simply circumstance, but it appears when a Walker is utterly unstimulated and in a state of starvation, it will simply go dormant and wait for the food to come to them. They will appear to a regular survivor as simply a dead corpse, then suddenly spring onto them. It appears a Lurker needs to be stimulated in order to pounce, whether from sound or fast movement, but this is not a hunting tactic thought out by the variant, but rather a state the Walker enters when starving. The most prominent examples of these variants come in Season 1 as the first Walker Rick kills outside Morgan's home is actually a Lurker, or in Season 3 when Herschel is bit on the leg while walking through the tombs, or for a larger scale, the Season 11 opener where our crew has to sneak through an entire room of dormant Lurkers without stimulating them. They're an interesting concept, as they kind of act as Walker landmines. Even a dormant body in the middle of the road could spring up and kill you. One of my favorite and most common type of variant is the environmental Walker. Now these are Walkers that have had Mother Nature infuse itself into the body, in some cases creating a type of
parasitism
relationship between the host and nature. These variants don't necessarily have any strength buffs or personality enhancements, but in some cases they benefit from their invader unknowingly. Some of the most notable environmental variants we can see across the universe are overgrown Walkers, essentially becoming part of trees and bushes as the moss overtakes them, or waterlogged Walkers, who see their skin bloat and sag over time, but doesn't change the way they hunt or behave, only appearance. And one of my favorite examples comes from The Walking Dead World Beyond, where we see a Walker that's been infested with wasps, building their nests within its body. This is not only extremely cool, but would serve to benefit the Walker while hunting. Hell, they might even feed the thing, who knows? I speculate as we get deeper into the timeline, we will see more and more unique examples of environmental Walkers as nature starts to reclaim the dead, such as the Walker King from Dead City, who would classify as an environmental Walker, but deserves its own segment later on as it has even more unique developmental circumstances. Our crew figures out pretty early that smell is what differentiates the living from the dead. Michonne discovers that by taking away the ability to eat, a Walker simply won't. Now this is debatable whether it's a variant or a state, but I thought I'd include it anyway as it doesn't behave like this. When arms are removed and jaws are broken, a Walker will become passive and not attack the living, as it has no interest in eating without the possibility to do so. The biggest benefit of a pet is protection from other Walkers. If one Walker isn't attacking a person, the other Walkers will assume everything's fine, like a placebo effect. Hanging around a Walker all day, I imagine the smell would also help to mask the scent of the living. The pet is more so a tool in the wasteland than a variant, but fits the criteria nonetheless. One of the most interesting variants to not be touched on further than its initial debut is the Protector. Now, I know, Tales of the Walking Dead sucks and shouldn't be considered canon, but unfortunately it is part of the official timeline. In the episode Dr. Everett and Amy, Chauncey Everett studies hordes of Walkers, where he observes on multiple occasions a unique trait among few that will provide for the rest of the horde. They have been seen leading hordes, killing prey, and leaving it for the rest of the herd to devour. Visually, you would not be able to distinguish a protector from a regular walker, besides their tendency to lead the herds. It's an extremely rare yet interesting trait that I hope to see explored further, as it provides information on the animalistic patterns of walkers. Mostly only appearing in Fear the Walking Dead, radiation walkers are regular zombies who have found themselves exposed to so much radiation that they carry it with them across their journeys. Full transparency, the writers of Fear don't seem to fully know how radiation actually works, so keep in mind everything about these variants could be entirely impossible in a real life setting. Radiation walkers visually appear to have large hives and boils all over their bodies, giving them a distinct look to know what to avoid. Some survivors of Texas carry Geiger counters to identify radiation variants among large groups. If contact is made in any form, the survivor will be required to disinfect themselves at risk of radiation poisoning, but contact in most cases will be lethal. These variants can mostly be found in the Texas/Western Louisiana radiation zone, and from what we've seen, they don't tend to wander away from the blast zones. I'll keep these next two short since they only feature for a couple episodes in Fear, but the Embalmed Walker is exactly as it sounds. A walker who's been injected with preservatives to keep the appearance of being fresh. This type of walker is exclusive to the state of Texas, as the procedure was performed by a man named Harvey, within Teddy's Doomsday Call in Season 6 of Fear. They did this under the belief it would prevent the soul from moving on to the afterlife. It's presumed most, if not all, of these embalmed walkers met their end when the nuclear bombs fell onto Texas. Also exclusive to the state of Texas, the taxidermied walkers are a result of a paranoid man in the profession. He would attach objects like deer antlers onto the dead to not only act as even more dangerous weapons, but scarecrows as well. They are an extremely cool looking man-made variant, but along with the embalmed, are presumed to have burned in the flames of the bombs. Exclusive to the country of France, burners appear in the first season of Daryl Dixon. They are extremely dangerous as their blood is acidic and will burn skin on contact. It's unknown if long-term exposure to the acidic blood will cause infection, but it's known the injury can be treated, evident from Daryl Dixon's Season 1. It's unclear where these variants originate from, but judging by the themes of walker experimentation, I'd speculate they are man-made by the seldomly referenced Primrose or Violet team. Although these variants are extremely dangerous up close, they don't pose any further threat than a regular walker when taken out from a distance. But they look really cool as you can see the acidic blood move through the veins of their faces. Probably one of the most mysterious variants on our list, little is known about the variant cohorts, only appearing in the post-credit scenes of The Walking Dead World Beyond. The contents of the post-credit scene are heavily debated, so please watch it for yourself and make your own determination of what's being presented. Mostly everything we know about cohorts are speculation. We get an interesting dialogue exchange between two unknown French parties. From what we gather, it appears different teams in France have been actively experimenting with the walkers to find a cure at the beginning, but in their efforts created something worse. This post-credit scene could be debated all day, but from what I gather, a team known as either Violet or Primrose created a variant far more dangerous than anything we've seen in the Walking Dead universe, and it got out. What we see next is the man shoot the woman in what appears to be the head, only for her to come back exceptionally quickly. The woman then displays a hyper sense of aggression, speed, and strength, pounding on a metal door and even doing some damage to it. What this was is yet to be fully explained, but I imagine it'll be in a future plot line in Daryl Dixon relating to the experiments of Pavor, a growing nationalist movement led by Genet in France, possibly related to these mysterious Primrose and Violet teams. But by far the most interesting aspect of the variant is what appears to be a resistance to damage to the brain. This is an unprecedented trait in any variant, and I hope is explained further in the future, if that is indeed what is happening here. Again, some information within the post-credit scene is heavily contested, as some interpret their words to mean the French created the virus, while others, like me, interpret it as they made it worse trying to find a cure. Please form your own opinions on the subject and let me know your thoughts below. Also appearing exclusively in France, hybrids are known to be man-made, as we see in Daryl Dixon's Season 1. Using an unknown, highly experimental substance, when injected into a regular walker, the body will begin violently convulsing. Effects of the substance may vary from heads instantly exploding to an extreme increase of speed, strength, and aggression, even attacking other hybrids in some cases, which is a first for any walker. But all exposed to the substance will display the same trait of deep black eyes. We've only reached the tip of the iceberg when it comes to hybrids, but I'm sure we'll explore them further in Daryl Dixon's Season 2. I speculate the burners, cohorts, and hybrids are all a result of experiments from the Primrose or Violet team mentioned in the World Beyond post-credit scene, as some hybrids can also display acidic blood as seen from the burners. But only time will tell with this extremely interesting variant. One of the scariest Walker variants we've seen in the Walking Dead universe is the Walker King, an amalgamation of 4 separate walkers fused together as one. This type of walker is inspired by Rat Kings, an event in nature where rats get their tails entangled and basically become one. This is definitely an original idea that 100% did not come from an equally as popular zombie medium. But that being said, the Walker King is a single entity, formed in the horrendous conditions of the Manhattan sewers. During Operation Cobalt, many would take the tunnels to escape the island, but would be eaten alive or bombed in the Sunset Protocol. Over time, the bodies would excrete gas, creating a high pressure and hot environment. And as a product, the walkers would begin to fuse together and become one. Maggie Rhee is forced to fight this creature in Dead City and somehow comes out victorious. It appears to have a large primary body with a secondary body attached to its shoulder blades, followed by 2 other walkers fused to and inside the primary walker's torso. It is by far the biggest and nastiest variant we've ever seen, and clearly took at least 15 years to marinate in the Manhattan super tunnels. What's interesting is that the Walker King uses its additional bodies in tandem to move, creating a slithering type effect when it approaches. It is truly a disgusting creature, and I hope we get to see more walkers fused together in the future. And that, folks, is every named variant in the Walking Dead universe that I could find. I didn't include certain states of walkers, like frozen walkers, because they hardly count as variants. But for the sake of consistency, some of those types you could probably lump into the environmental variant category. But if there's any variants that I might have missed, please let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.